Welcome to HFY Stories. If you're ready for jaw-dropping stories and a universe full of excitement, hit that subscribe button like it's the big red button in a space opera. Give us a like if you're feeling that interstellar vibe and comment below to join the conversation. The invasion begins. Captain Ilara Voss stood on the bridge of the ISS Resolute, her gaze fixed on the dark expanse of space. Her sharp blue eyes reflected the countless stars, but her thoughts were elsewhere. The Vraxis Confederacy, an alien coalition known for its brutality, had invaded a human colony on the fringe of the galaxy. Rumors spread like wildfire. The Vraxis had captured civilians, turning them into slaves. It was a calculated move, an open challenge to humanity. Ilara knew the situation was dire. As the commander of the fleet's flagship, she had a responsibility not just to the colony, but to all of humanity. "Status report," she ordered. Lieutenant Riven, a tall man with a perpetual frown, turned from his station. "The colony's distress beacon is still broadcasting. No response to our hails. The Vraxis fleet is likely jamming communications. Our scouts have detected at least 12 capital ships in orbit around the colony. They outnumber us 3-1, Captain." Ilara's jaw tightened. The Vraxis were powerful, their ships designed for one purpose: war. Humanity's dreadnoughts were a different breed, built not only for battle but also for endurance, capable of taking and dishing out punishment in equal measure. Yet the numbers were against them. She had 5 dreadnoughts under her command, each brimming with firepower but facing a ruthless enemy. "We can't wait for reinforcements. Prepare the fleet. We're moving in," Ilara declared, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. Every second wasted meant more lives lost. "And send a message to Admiral Royce. Tell him we're engaging the Vraxis." "Aye, Captain," Riven replied, quickly relaying her orders. As the fleet prepared for combat, Ilara felt a familiar presence beside her. Commander Jax Tenor, her second-in-command and old flame, approached. His dark eyes held a mix of concern and admiration. They had been through countless battles together, their bond forged in the crucible of war. There had been a time when they were more than just comrades, but the relentless demands of duty had pulled them apart. "Are you sure about this, Ilara?" Jax asked, his voice low enough for only her to hear. "We're outnumbered. The odds are never in our favor," she finished for him, a slight smile playing on her lips. "But we've faced worse, haven't we?" Jax chuckled, a deep, resonant sound. "We have. Just don't do anything reckless. I'd like to see this through with you." Ilara's heart warmed at his words, though she kept her expression neutral. "Stay close to my side, Jax." "That's an order." The ISS Resolute led the charge, the massive dreadnought cutting through space with its 4 sister ships in formation. As they approached the colony, the Vraxis fleet came into view. The alien ships were a terrifying sight, sleek and predatory, bristling with weaponry. Ilara's fingers danced over the controls, her mind racing through tactics. "Deploy fighters. Shield up. All hands, brace for combat," Ilara commanded. The bridge hummed with activity as the crew prepared for battle. She stole a quick glance at Jax, who was focused on the tactical display. Whatever happened next, she knew they would face it together. The first Vraxis ships opened fire, beams of destructive energy streaking through the void. The Resolute's shields flared as they absorbed the initial onslaught, and Ilara's fingers tightened on the armrest of her chair. "Return fire," she ordered. The dreadnoughts answered with a devastating volley, their guns roaring in unison. Explosions lit up the darkness as Vraxis ships were hit, but more closed in, their weapons blazing. The battle had begun in earnest, and Ilara's focus narrowed. Every decision mattered. Every command could mean life or death. She pushed all thoughts of fear and doubt aside, her mind a razor's edge. This was her domain, and she would not fail. As the Resolute surged forward, leading the charge against the Vraxis fleet, Ilara's heart pounded with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The fate of the colony, and perhaps all of humanity, hung in the balance. But she knew one thing for certain. The Vraxis had underestimated the resolve of the human spirit. "Sit tight," Ilara murmured, her voice barely audible over the noise of battle. "The human Dreadnought fleet is coming. Against the odds." The ISS Resolute shuddered under the impact of enemy fire, but its shields held firm. The Vraxis fleet had closed the distance, their capital ships forming a wall of steel and death. Ilara's jaw was set in a hard line as she watched the tactical display. The situation was deteriorating faster than she had anticipated. "Status of our fleet?" Ilara barked. Lieutenant Riven's fingers flew over his console. "The Vanguard and Tempest are taking heavy fire, but their shields are holding. The Indomitable is reporting damage to their starboard batteries. We're giving as good as we're getting, Captain, but the Vraxis are pressing hard. Keep our formation tight. We can't let them break through." Ilara replied, her mind racing with strategies. The Vraxis had the numbers, but human technology was more advanced. If she could exploit that advantage, they might just have a chance. Beside her, Jax was coordinating with the other ships, his deep voice cutting through the din of the bridge. Despite the tension, his presence was a comfort. He had always been her rock, the steady hand in the chaos of battle. "Ilara," Jax called, drawing her attention to his screen. "I'm picking up an anomaly. It's faint, but it looks like a cloaked ship moving through the Vraxis formation." Ilara's eyes narrowed. A cloaked ship meant stealth, and stealth meant sabotage. If the Vraxis had a stealth vessel, they could strike at the fleet's heart. "Can you get a lock on it?" "Not yet, but I've got an idea," Jax said. He tapped a few keys, and a schematic of the Resolute appeared on his screen. "We can pulse the area with a broad-spectrum EMP. It'll temporarily disrupt the cloaking field. It's risky, but it might give us a shot at revealing the ship." "Do it," Ilara ordered without hesitation. "All ships, prepare for EMP pulse. This might get bumpy." The crew braced as Jax initiated the pulse. A wave of energy rippled out from the Resolute, momentarily disrupting communications and sensors. For a few heartbeats, the void was silent. Then, a flicker appeared on the screen. The outline of a Vraxis stealth ship shimmered into view, caught in the EMP net. "There it is," Jax shouted, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "Target the stealth ship. Fire everything we've got." The Resolute's guns roared to life, spewing fire and destruction. The Vraxis stealth ship tried to evade, but it was too late. A direct hit tore through its hull, sending it spiraling into the void. The bridge erupted in cheers, a small victory in the midst of chaos. "Good work, Jax," Ilara said, allowing herself a brief smile. "Now let's press the advantage. All ships, focus fire on the Vraxis flagship. We take it out, and their formation will fall apart." The fleet responded with deadly precision. Dreadnoughts unleashed a barrage of firepower, hammering the Vraxis flagship. The alien vessel's shields flared and buckled, and explosions rippled along its hull. The Vraxis returned fire, but the human fleet pressed on, their determination unwavering. As the battle raged, Ilara felt a surge of adrenaline. This was what she lived for: the thrill of combat, the challenge of outmaneuvering an enemy. Yet, amid the chaos, her thoughts drifted to Jax. There had been a time when she had dreamed of a life beyond war, of a future with him. But duty had always come first. Now, as death loomed ever closer, she wondered if she had made the right choice. "Ilara," Jax's voice cut through her thoughts. He was at her side, his expression serious. "We're making progress, but the Vraxis are adapting. We need to end this, and fast." Ilara nodded, her resolve hardening. "Prepare for a full-scale assault on their flagship. We're taking them down, no matter the cost." The Resolute and her sister ships charged. Closing in on the Vraxis flagship, Ilara could see the enemy ship looming large on the view screen, its weapons blazing. She felt the familiar rush of fear and excitement, the sense that this moment was a turning point. They were on the edge of victory, but it could still slip away. "All hands, prepare for impact," Ilara called. "This is it. For the colony. For humanity." The Resolute surged forward, leading the charge. As the human fleet closed in on the Vraxis flagship, Ilara knew one thing for certain: they would fight to the last breath. The Vraxis had underestimated them, and now they would pay the price. In the depths of space, the battle reached its climax, the fate of thousands hanging in the balance. Love and war. The Resolute's hull groaned as it absorbed the impact of another blast. The Vraxis flagship was proving to be a formidable opponent, its shields absorbing the brunt of the human fleet's fire. Ilara's mind raced as she searched for a way to break through. They had to find a weakness, something they could exploit. "Lieutenant Riven, status of the Vraxis flagship's shields?" Ilara asked, her voice tense. "They're holding, Captain," Riven replied. "But we've detected a fluctuation in their port side emitters. If we can focus our fire there, we might be able to punch through." Ilara nodded. "All ships, concentrate fire on the Vraxis flagship's port side. We need to overload their shields." As the fleet adjusted its formation, Jax moved closer to Ilara, his expression unreadable. "Ilara, there's something I need to say," he began, his voice low. "Not now, Jax," Ilara snapped, her focus on the battle. "We're in the middle of a fight." "I know, but if we don't make it out of this," Jax persisted, his eyes intense. "We will make it out," Ilara interrupted, her voice firm. "We have to." Jax fell silent, his jaw tightening. Ilara knew he was right. They might not survive this. But she couldn't afford to think about that now. Her duty was to the fleet, to the colony, to humanity. Everything else would have to wait. The fleet's guns unleashed a torrent of fire, hammering the Vraxis flagship's port side. The alien ship's shields flickered, struggling to hold. Ilara watched the tactical display, her heart pounding. This was their chance. "Captain, we've got an incoming transmission from the colony," Riven called out, his voice filled with urgency. "Put it through," Ilara ordered. The screen flickered, and a grainy image of a human woman appeared. She was young, with dark hair and wide eyes, her face pale with fear. "This is Dr. Tessa Vale of New Eden Colony. We're under attack. The Vraxis have breached our defenses. We need help, please." Ilara's heart clenched at the sight of the terrified woman. She recognized Tessa from the colony's research team. They had met briefly during Ilara's last visit. Now she was just another voice calling out for help. "We're coming, Dr. Vale," Ilara said, her voice steady. "Hold on. We won't let them take you." The transmission cut out, leaving only static. Ilara felt a surge of anger. The Vraxis were not just attacking a colony. They were attacking people, families, lives. She would not let them succeed. "Jax," Ilara said, turning to him, "get down to the hangar. Take a team and prepare for a boarding action. We're going to take that flagship from the inside." Jax nodded, his expression resolute. "I'll see you on the other side, Captain." As he left the bridge, Ilara felt a pang of fear. She knew the risks of a boarding action, but Jax was the best, and she trusted him with her life. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that she might be sending him to his death. "All hands, prepare for boarding action," Ilara announced. "We're going to take the fight to them." The Resolute surged forward, closing the distance to the Vraxis flagship. As the two ships collided, a shudder ran through the hull, and the sound of metal scraping against metal filled the air. Ilara gripped the armrest of her chair, bracing herself. "Boarding pods away," Riven reported. "Jax and his team are on their way." Ilara watched the view screen, her heart pounding. She could see the tiny dots of the boarding pods as they launched from the Resolute, streaking towards the Vraxis ship. It was a dangerous maneuver, but it was their best shot. "Good luck, Jax," she whispered, her voice barely audible. As the battle raged around her, Ilara's thoughts were with the man she loved. She had spent so long denying her feelings, pushing them aside for the sake of duty. But now, with death looming over them, she realized how much Jax meant to her. If they survived this, she vowed to tell him the truth. She wouldn't let fear or duty stand in the way. They had a chance at something real, something worth fighting for, and Ilara was ready to fight with everything she had. Victory and sacrifice. The interior of the Vraxis flagship was a maze of dark corridors and alien technology. Jax moved swiftly, his pulse rifle at the ready, his team close behind. They had one objective: to disable the ship's shields and open the way for the Resolute's final strike. "Stay sharp," Jax whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the ship. "The Vraxis won't go down without a fight." As if on cue, a group of Vraxis soldiers rounded the corner, their weapons raised. Jax fired, the sharp crack of his rifle echoing in the confined space. The first Vraxis fell, and his team opened fire, cutting down the others in a hail of bullets. "Keep moving," Jax ordered, pushing forward. Time was running out, and every second counted. They reached the shield control room, a large chamber filled with glowing consoles and alien symbols. Jax motioned for his team to take positions, his eyes scanning the room for threats. He approached the main console, his fingers hovering over the alien interface. "Can you do it?" one of his team members asked, his voice tense. Jax nodded, his mind racing as he deciphered the alien symbols. "I've studied enough Vraxis tech to know how to disable their shields. Cover me while I work." As Jax began to override the controls, the sound of footsteps echoed through the corridor. More Vraxis soldiers were approaching, their guttural voices barking orders. Jax's team tensed, their weapons ready. "Hurry, Jax," one of them urged. "I'm almost there," Jax replied, his fingers flying over the controls. The shield system was complex, but he was making progress. He could feel the heat of battle around him, the tension in the air. They were so close. The door to the control room burst open, and Vraxis soldiers poured in. Jax's team opened fire, the room erupting in a storm of bullets and energy blasts. Jax ducked behind the console, his heart pounding. He couldn't afford to be distracted. "Hold them off," Jax shouted, his focus on the console. He entered the final command, his fingers dancing over the keys. With a final tap, the shield controls went dark, the hum of energy dissipating. "Shields are down," Jax called out, a surge of triumph flooding his veins. "Ilara, the ship is vulnerable. Hit them now." Back on the Resolute, Ilara received the message, her heart leaping. "All ships, concentrate fire on the Vraxis flagship," she ordered. "This is our chance." The human fleet unleashed a devastating barrage, their guns hammering the Vraxis ship. Without its shields, the flagship was vulnerable, its hull tearing under the onslaught. Explosions rippled through the alien vessel, fire and debris spilling into space. "We did it," Riven breathed, his voice filled with awe. "The Vraxis flagship is going down." Ilara watched the screen, her heart pounding with relief and triumph. They had won. The Vraxis fleet was in disarray, their formation breaking apart. The colony was safe. But her joy was short-lived. "Jax," she whispered, her thoughts turning to the man she loved. He was still on the Vraxis ship, still fighting. "Get me a status report on the boarding team." There was a pause, then Revan's voice came through, tight with emotion. "Captain, we've lost contact with Commander Tenner's team." Their last transmission indicated heavy resistance. Ilara's heart clenched. She couldn't lose him, not now. Not after everything they had been through. "Prepare a rescue team," she ordered. "I'm going over there." "Captain, it's too dangerous," Riven protested. "The flagship is unstable. It could go critical at any moment." "I'm not leaving him behind," Ilara said, her voice fierce. "That's an order, Lieutenant." As the Resolute moved closer to the dying Vraxis ship, Ilara prepared to lead the rescue team. Her heart was heavy with fear, but she pushed it aside. Jax needed her, and she would not let him down. They entered the Vraxis flagship, the air thick with smoke and the smell of burning metal. Ilara led the way, her pulse rifle at the ready. They moved quickly, navigating the damaged corridors, searching for Jax and his team. "Over here," one of her men called, pointing to a collapsed section of the corridor. Jax lay on the ground, his body battered and bloodied, but alive. "Jax," Ilara breathed, kneeling beside him. His eyes opened, a faint smile crossing his lips. "You came for me," he whispered, his voice weak. "Always," Ilara replied, her heart swelling with love and relief. She helped him to his feet, supporting his weight as they made their way back to the Resolute. As they escaped the dying Vrax's ship, Ilara felt a sense of triumph and gratitude. They had won the battle, but more importantly, they had saved each other. In the aftermath of the battle, Ilara stood on the bridge of the Resolute, Jax by her side. The stars stretched out before them, the future uncertain but filled with hope. They had faced the darkness together and emerged stronger. "Sit tight," Ilara whispered, her hand clasping Jax's. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." And in the quiet of space, with the threat of the Vraxis behind them, Ilara knew they had won more than a battle. They had found love and a future worth fighting for. The lesson of the story: in the face of insurmountable odds, love, courage, and unity can lead to victory. Never underestimate the power of human resilience and the bonds that tie us together. The end.